welcome to the all-time high channel. My name is Vagif. I've decided to finally do a review of the D3 Doma protocol project. What is it? What is it for? Why should you pay attention to it? And basically, I just want to share all of this with you. Maybe some people don't fully understand its potential and what is the project actually about. That is, everyone thinks it's just about domains and nothing more. Actually, that's not the case. So let's do it this way. I'll make a separate video on how to do the testnet for beginners and for those who haven't done it before. But first I'll explain what it is, what the project is about, and why it has some uniqueness. D3 has raised $30 million. Paradigm is the lead investor here, along with Coinbase, Sandeep, and others, basically. I'll try to explain it in simple terms. So, the Doma protocol is creating a financial market for domains. In other words, it's not just what we're used to. Basically, all we know is that there are domains we use to access websites, and there are domains that serve for, identification, labeling some address, like a wallet address, to which we can send tokens, and that's it. And only a minority actually understands the structure and potential of these domains. For several years now, there's been talk about wanting to implement a technology, fractionalization, specifically the fractionalization of NFTs. That's what the discussion was about. Look, let's say we have a Bored Ape and its price is 90 ETH, for example, as it once was. And the entry threshold is very high for an average ordinary user. Accordingly, there are limitations in the use case of this NFT. Basically, you buy it and that's it. And it just sits there dead weight. So it's a status symbol. Yes, you become some kind of big shot, but that's about it. But if you implement fractionalization technology, then a whole DeFi sector market opens up. In other words, the NFT gains a new kind of niche. But the thing is, the NFT market is dead. Well, basically, right? It's just not that interesting to people anymore. And the D3 Doma protocol project did something really smart. They went in the right direction. Let's talk about that a bit later. I'll explain using the NFT as an example. So, let's say we have an NFT and we lock it on the blockchain, fractionalize it, and issue fractions. These are ERC20 tokens that market participants can buy to become fractional owners of this asset. Next, we have the DeFi sector, where we can also go and interact with different use cases and various conditions that are offered to us. For example, staking, speculating, and probably also collateral, putting something down, and so on. This is actually a whole new niche. Out of the projects that, well, at least as far as I know, the only one on my radar was the PartyBit project. Everyone has probably already heard that some NFT was issued, a pool was formed, meaning that some tokens were released under this NFT. But everything they did was quite limited. That is, their technology didn't include what Doma protocol is offering. And actually, I want to point out why they didn't go into the NFT sector, but instead chose domains. Because NFTs are no longer new, they're already old, so to speak. Everyone is already tired of NFTs, they've become stale. But in fact, the domain market also exists. So domains are, let's say, a familiar part of our world, IRL, the Web2 world, and there's a lot of money circulating in it. If we just talk about registrants, that is domain registrations themselves, by 2025 they will generate about $10 billion in profit annually. As for the domains themselves that exist on the market, there are around 360 million. So that's a lot of money. And they went in the right direction. They went into something that doesn't yet exist on the market. That's the first thing. Second, there's really high liquidity there. And third, real people and real corporations own domains with high capitalization. So in fact, we can just imagine with simple examples, we have google.com, facebook.com, and so on. Different options. AI.net, for example, org. These are all domains that we use every day. We read some information, we go and interact with these sites, and these sites also have some value as an asset, as ownership of something. And accordingly, just imagine if they implement this as something similar to Story Protocol. Story Protocol came along and said, we want to bring digital licenses from the real world into crypto as well. Copyrights, notary services, and so on. Basically everything related to copyright and legal aspects, they decided to integrate all of that into crypto. After all, the whole point of us being here is to see and take part in the process of bringing the real world into crypto. So accordingly, I don't see any reason to skip projects that are doing this. On the contrary, I believe that these kinds of projects actually carry a lot of weight because they're really trying to make something happen. And by their own example, they prove that this can actually be successful. Story protocol, which we also worked on, I read it thoroughly and also called it out in the channel. And everyone who participated, well done. There, we managed to get, so if someone didn't have a passport, they could make one by spending 14 bucks. But at the same time, all the activity was free, everything was completely on testnet. You could really go all in there and get 350 tokens, which if you sell them at 7 bucks each is about $2,500 in rewards, in case anyone didn't know. That's why a good example is the Story protocol, which brings big money from real life into crypto. And even the Grayscale fund is now including the Story protocol. So at least for now, this project is the House protocol. They're moving in the right direction. They are taking some very real-world assets that have a clear use case and trying to bring them into the crypto space. And just imagine, for instance, Google.com, for example. I wonder how much it's worth. I haven't checked, but just imagine how much it costs. Or maybe something simpler, it doesn't matter. Any domain, if it can be turned into a Web3 asset, a domain that can be tokenized and put on the blockchain. At the same time, first of all, they will be able to choose which blockchain they want to tokenize it on. Secondly, after tokenization, it can be fractionalized, that is, turned into tokens, and accordingly attract even more liquidity. Yes, it's possible that people will speculate on this. Maybe speculation will be the driving force of progress. But in any case, this also opens up the DeFi sector and various other opportunities. This idea is really cool, and if they manage to bring everything to perfection, it will be great. Whether it will be successful, we'll see later, the results will show. But right now, there are just a ton of green flags for moving forward with it. And people who only look at fundraising, who only look at the Twitter score like, oh, it doesn't have 1,000 Twitter score, not even 500, not even 200. All of that is just skipped and skipped. Well, I don't understand what you're guided by. What kind of cookie cutter approaches are these anyway? Look at the projects that took off with a terrible Twitter score that didn't have any major fundraising. And again, as an example, there's Vanna, which also had Paradigm involved. It turned out there was a tap button you could tap unlimited times and no one was monitoring it. All of this was on the blockchain, and then there were quests. They shut down that tap button, then their node launched, and in 3 months they went to TGE with a capitalization of $1 billion. From raising 30 million, they reached $1 billion and 2.5. You can see that things like fundraising, Twitter activity, and other metrics don't always play a decisive role. So when a project raises $500 million and everyone rushes to get involved, that's actually not always a green flag. That is, most likely there will be 1 trillion people involved. They'll distribute the drop to 1 million wallets, and as a result, you'll end up with next to nothing. Only the farmers will loot the drop with leverage, getting something like X1000 or X100. How much does everyone make? Alright, I got off topic. I just want to say, can you imagine the opportunities that Doma protocol opens up if they really pull all this off and have a successful case? But actually they're moving smartly, and I can see that in principle they have every chance. That's why I'm telling you about this. So, fractionalization. Here's a simple and clear diagram that visually shows how we can effectively register a domain name and then subsequently turn it into a digital token through the process of fractionalization. This also opens up various opportunities. That is, DEX, launchpads, all sorts of different bridges, the DeFi sector, all made possible through the existence of tokens. There's also a buyout function, meaning you can roll everything back and turn it back into a domain. I can't explain exactly how this is done because that would make for a very long video, but this function does exist. But for example, it only worked one way, and well, it was a very limited option and it didn't catch on. So the idea is that the Doma protocol project offers to tokenize regular domains, put them on some blockchain, and then you can turn them into ERC20 tokens and trade them. If you ever want to roll everything back, you can do it using the buyout function. That's all there is to it. And with this, Doma protocol opens up the DeFi sector with high liquidity and great opportunities for these domains. If you enjoyed the content, please like and rate the video. It really is a huge motivation. After all, for you, leaving a like or writing a comment costs nothing really. But for us as content creators, it takes a lot of effort. That's why, so to speak, the time investment is simply incomparable. I would really appreciate it if you could give feedback, comment, and hit the notification bell. When I see that it's helpful, it motivates me and encourages me to keep going and do even more in the same direction. Also be sure to check out the All-Time High Telegram channel. We have a lot of content there, discussions, and everything you need is published much more frequently. I'd be glad to see you there. So thank you all, and may you all profit. I hope the project will feed us well. Good luck to everyone. Goodbye everyone.